The Colorado Rockies are currently the laughingstock of baseball. Just a couple years ago, they were a competitive team, but since then, they have made a lot of questionable signings and trades. And in my eyes, there is one person who is solely responsible for the current state of the Colorado Rockies. His name is Jeff Bridich. Bridich was the Rockies GM from 2014 to 2021. And to this day, Bridich is known as one of the worst GMs in baseball we've seen in a pretty long time. Let's go back to 2014, where Bridich was promoted to GM. Up until this point, the Rockies were a pretty mediocre franchise as they'd only made the postseason 3 times since their inaugural season in 1993. And Bridich wasn't necessarily thrown into the best position. He was taking charge of a Rockies team coming off a 66-win season in 2014. But this team did have some promise as they had superstars in Carlos Gonzalez, Troy Tulowitzki, and a young 24-year-old in Nolan Arenado. On top of that, they had all-star caliber players in Charlie Blackmon and DJ LeMahieu. So while the Rockies had a pretty solid offense, their big issue was their pitching. The ace of the Rockies staff at the time was a 34-year-old Jorge De La Rosa. So that just really goes to show just how depleted this Rockies starting rotation was. So heading into 2015, expectations weren't very high, and the Rockies played as expected in this 2015 season as they finished with 68 wins and 94 losses. But not all was bad with Colorado as they had a few bright spots in their offense. Nolan Arenado broke through as he hit 42 home runs and drove in 130 runs while also winning a Gold Glove. Carlos Gonzalez also continued his dominance as he had a 40 home run season. And going into 2016, expectations were getting a little bit higher for Colorado. Former number 3 overall pick Jon Gray would be called up to the big leagues where he was considered one of the better young prospects in the game. On top of that, they also had some serviceable arms in Tyler Chatwood and Tyler Anderson. And offensively, they had a lot of the same bats. They were bringing back DJ LeMahieu, Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon, and Carlos Gonzalez. One change that was made in the 2015 was Troy Tulowitzki was eventually traded to the Blue Jays, leaving the door open for a rookie in Trevor Story. So while the Rockies weren't expected to make the playoffs, they were looked at as a sleeper team who could really surprise a lot of people. They ended up only winning 75 games this season, but it was definitely a step in the right direction. Nolan Arenado solidified himself as a superstar as he had his second straight 40 home run, 130 plus RBI season. Trevor Story hit 27 home runs in his rookie season, and it was clear he had a very bright future. The starting rotation wasn't all that bad. Tyler Chatwood and Tyler Anderson each had ERAs under 4. Jon Gray had some ups and downs where he ended up pitching to a 4.61 ERA. The bullpen was where things got messy as their closer at the time, Jake McGee, pitched to a 4.73 ERA. Colorado missed the postseason for the 7th straight season, but as we said before, things were looking up in Colorado. Going into 2017, this team was looked at as a sleeper team again who could potentially make the postseason. They were bringing back young stars in Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, and also had Charlie Blackmon, Carlos Gonzalez, and DJ LeMahieu to solidify their lineup. They had a pretty solid young rotation that consisted of players like Jon Gray, Tyler Anderson, and Kyle Freeland. They also had another young pitching prospect in the wings as they had German Marquez, who they acquired the season prior in a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays. So Colorado had a very talented offense to go along with a young pitching rotation with lots of promise. On top of that, they also signed Mark Reynolds, who would eventually pay big dividends for Colorado. The Rockies also signed Ian Desmond to a 5-year, $70 million deal this offseason. So the Rockies were active in the 2016 offseason, and it was clear they were here to contend. There was lots of hype around Colorado heading into 2017, and they lived up to the hype. DJ LeMahieu, Trevor Story, Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon, and Mark Reynolds all had great seasons. Reynolds was a key piece to the offense as he hit 33 home runs. Rookies Kyle Freeland and German Marquez pitched well as they both had sub 4.5 ERAs. Jon Gray broke out and showed his real potential as he pitched to a 3.67 ERA. Greg Holland, who I forgot to mention earlier, was another off-season signing who had a dominant season closing out games for Colorado. The Rockies finished the season at 87-75, making the postseason for the first time since 2009. But unfortunately for Colorado, they ran into their division rival in the Arizona Diamondbacks, who knocked them out in the wild card round. So it was obviously a disappointment making the postseason for the first time in 8 years and being knocked out immediately. But the Rockies were just happy to be there at this point. This team hadn't made the postseason in such a long time, and this was some valuable experience for their young arms. Going into 2018, the Rockies were looked at as one of the most dangerous teams in baseball. They made some huge moves to improve their bullpen. They signed Wade Davis, Jake McGee, and Brian Shaw for a combined $107 million. The Rockies were really looked at as legitimate World Series contenders as they had a complete offense, a young and developing rotation to go along with a dominant bullpen. And in this 2018 season, the Rockies ended up living up to their lofty expectations. The Rockies had arguably the best left side of the infield in baseball in Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado. Story had 37 home runs while Nolan hit 38. Charlie Blackmon, Ian Desmond, and DJ LeMahieu also had solid offensive campaigns. Kyle Freeland emerged as a legitimate Cy Young candidate as he pitched to a 2.85 earned run average and was fourth in the Cy Young voting. German Marquez showed up as well as he pitched to a 3.77 ERA with 230 strikeouts. They were very close to winning their first ever National League West title as they lost to the Dodgers in game 163. All in all, the Rockies ended up winning 91 games and losing 72, good enough to land them a spot in the wild card game facing off against the Chicago Cubs. And in this wild card game, Kyle Freeland pitched and he showed up. Tony Wolters came up big in extra innings as he ended up pushing the Rockies ahead and ultimately landing them a spot in the NLDS to face off against the Milwaukee Brewers. Unfortunately for Colorado, this magical season would come to an end as they got swept by Milwaukee in the NLDS. So it was a disappointing end to the season, but Colorado had clearly made a name for themselves. Top to bottom, this was one of the best teams in baseball, and going into 2019, optimism was high. But this is as good as things would get for Colorado. In 2019, they were a massive disappointment. The bullpen imploded and the starting rotation was awful. John Gray was the only starter in Colorado's rotation with a sub 4.5 ERA. Trevor Story and Nolan Arenado produced, but they could only take Colorado so far as the pitching rotation was just awful and it really brought the whole team down. All in all, the Rockies ended up finishing this season at 71 and 91. So going into 2020, not a lot of people knew what to expect from the Rockies. People weren't sure whether Colorado was going to revert back to their 2017 and 2018 form or they were going to show a repeat performance of 2019. And starting off the season, it was clear that Colorado looked like they were going to go back to dominating. They started off the season at 11-3 and really looked like one of the best teams in the National League. But unfortunately, things would go south. After this 11-3 start, Colorado finished the shortened 60-game season at 15-31, ultimately bringing their 2020 record to 26 wins and 34 losses. And this season was different for Colorado in the sense that the offense was the issue, not the pitching. Antonio Senzatella and German Marquez each had sub-4 ERAs. But Nolan Arenado did not produce as he only hit .258 with 8 home runs. And at this point in time, it was pretty clear that Nolan Arenado was getting sick of the losing. Jeff Bridich, the GM, was making bad move after bad move. The $70 million that the Rockies gave to Ian Desmond just a couple years back was clearly not worth it. Another $107 million was down the drain as Jake McGee, Brian Shaw, and Wade Davis were just not the same. So going into 2021, the Rockies were not looked at as serious contenders. After back-to-back losing seasons, Colorado was looking like one of the worst teams in baseball. Fast forward to February of 2021, and this is where things completely fall apart. The Rockies ended up trading away Nolan Arenado and $51 million for Austin Gomber and a few low-level prospects. From the beginning, it was clear that St. Louis fleeced Colorado. For me personally, when I first heard this news, I thought the Rockies were getting $51 million, but they gave away their star player along with $51 million for basically nothing. And it was at this point in time where everyone turned their heads and realized that Colorado was the laughingstock of baseball. They paid the Cardinals $51 million to take their superstar, their icon, away from them. Everyone was just laughing at the Rockies, and really, for good reason. They had no direction at this point. Everyone knew Jeff Bridich was clearly a joke of a GM, and the Rockies really had nothing going into 2021 outside of Trevor Story. And for Story, he was clearly frustrated as he was left with basically no one. Now, moving forward to April 26, 2021, Jeff Bridich stepped down as GM. And as a Rockies fan, this was the highlight of the 2021 season. It gave Rockies fans the sense that they had some direction in the future. But fast forward to the 2021 trade deadline, and the Rockies were let down yet again. Obviously, as a Rocky fan, I want to keep superstars like Trevor Story around, but when you have the opportunities to trade him and get some value back for him in return, and you don't do it, it is just frustrating. That's exactly what the Rockies did. They ended up keeping Trevor Story and holding on to him past the 2021 trade deadline and basically saying, we're going to let you walk and get nothing in return. So when you think things can't get worse for Colorado, they just got worse. It was a no-brainer to trade Trevor Story because you could have gotten something for him at the deadline, but the Rockies didn't do that, and he is most likely going to get traded or signed somewhere else before the 2022 season. And that brings us to present day, where the Colorado Rockies are still looked at as arguably the worst team in baseball. They have no expectations, no future whatsoever. It's just not a great time to be a Colorado fan. And for me, I just feel bad for Trevor Story. He's on a team wasting away his prime years that clearly has no aspirations to win right now. It's really only a matter of time before Trevor Story signs elsewhere. So the current day Rockies are a complete mess, mostly due to Jeff Bridich. The signings of Ian Desmond and the $107 million they gave out to 3 different relievers was just an absolute disaster, to go along with trading away Nolan Arenado and $51 million. And simply not trading Trevor Story this past year has just led up to what we are today. Like I said before, it's not a great time to be a Colorado fan, but I'm going to stick with them through it. I'm not going to bandwagon another team. It's just very disappointing, but hopefully things will get better soon. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below on the Colorado Rockies as well. I'm curious to see what you guys think down below. And if you guys do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. I'm going to continue to post a lot more baseball videos over here as we get closer to the 2022 season. And lastly, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.